It seems like all projects start the same way. You end up with an inspiration or an idea or a request from a client. You make your way down to the lumber store, pick up what looks to be the best suited wood and grain pattern for the project, bring it home and start breaking it down. I always cut things down to the smallest size possible, and then I feed them through the jointer, which is a new addition to my shop, and I have to say, very much appreciated. After the jointer, then it's time to move over to the planer, get them down to just about the right thickness. This process can be monotonous sometimes, but honestly, I like it. It's rewarding, it starts things off on a good note, and it's just kind of fun to do. Today I'm going to be putting together a shadow box for a client that's looking to display an art piece of his. It's going to be made of solid walnut on the outside and then some white oak veneers on the inside. Generally, it's a fairly simple build. There's a couple things that I had to work through here, but nothing too crazy. I decided for the first time in a while to just, after milling down the wood, to sticker it and let it sit overnight. It didn't move at all, but good practice to see if it's going to twist or move at all. I had some 8/4 white oak that I ripped down into the pieces I needed to make the inside veneer. It's going to be a little bit thicker than veneer, maybe a 1/4 inch thick. It was a little bit dodgy feeding these through the planer, but it worked out pretty good. I think a 1/4 inch is about as thin as I'd want to go, and I'm pretty sure my knives are a little bit dull. Next up, it was time to cut the miters. When I cut these, I like to use my sled on my table saw now, and I just sneak up on it so I can just hit that very edge of the corner. Once there, just push it through and the miter's cut. I used the stop block on my Miter Express here to set the distance so that all of the pieces for the same sides would be the same length, and just once again cut those miters. Easy peasy. Just quickly verify the length here, and yep, that will do. Now it's time to hog out the dados. This is probably the piece that I was a little bit uncomfortable with. I want a 1/2 inch projection on the front of the frame. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. So I decided to hog out the vast majority of the material to make room for the white oak veneers or insets. I hogged out the middle here on the dado stack, leaving kind of little table legs on each side. The 1/2 inch one for the front and then one just to support the material. I then cut that back piece off vertically on the table saw. I'm not sure about this cut. It went okay, no issues, no kickback, no problems, but it just didn't quite feel right. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's a better way to do this or a safer way. And it's time for just a little bit of sanding here. Sanding's the bane of everybody's existence. Now, if you're wondering if you can use your kids' black IKEA paint to change the color of your 5-minute quickset epoxy here, and if you think you should mix it in even amounts with said epoxy, I'll give you a little spoiler here. The answer is no. No, you should not do this. I just applied the soon-to-be failure of an epoxy concoction here into these knot holes just to square everything up. I put a bit of tuck tape in to kind of control the mess as much as I could. I don't know if you can tell from this picture, but 5-minute epoxy 28 hours later is not hard. That's not a good sign. I didn't think it was ever going to become hard. What I did to, it was still soft and pliable, but it wasn't running everywhere. So I hogged out a bit with the chisel and just filled it with some black CA glue. I used some tape to try to keep it from running everywhere. I think I might pick up some of the thick black CA glue just for issues like this. I think it would be a little bit easier, get less running around. And there, after a couple seconds with the activator, it firmed up. A quick additional touch up with the CA glue, and that is looking a-okay. Now it was time to glue up the miters. I think I have the worst roll of masking tape you could possibly imagine. It just doesn't stick to anything. But I fought through it, taped the miters together and flipped the board over, fought with the tape a little bit here as we were going, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. Once I got the tape on all of the joints, I just spread some glue evenly on both sides and then on the outside edges here, and it was time to fold up my miters. It was a little bit tricky with this crappy tape, but it held well enough for me to assemble the box, flip it over, and put a band clamp on. This is honestly the best way to do miters, where you don't need to put a domino or something in them. The tape has just enough stretch, holds them together perfectly, and then I just use this band clamp to kind of reinforce it while the glue dried. I quickly check for square just to make sure everything's good. There was a little bit of wobble on the square. I checked with a tape measure going diagonally here, and we were within a 32nd of an inch. I consider that pretty darn square. So yeah, there we go. Time for the glue to dry. Once the glue is dry, it's just time to pull off the band clamp, peel off the tape, and see what we have. And I gotta say, these miters are perfect. Probably some of the tightest miters I've ever been able to put together. So crappy tape or not, it's definitely the way to go. I grab my chisel and just clean up a little bit of the glue squeeze out on the inside. It wasn't too bad. And then, yeah, hit the face with a sander just to flush everything up and remove any more of the squeeze out there. I decided to just round over the edges or break the edges here with a hand sander. I thought about routing it, but it just doesn't have a huge surface to ride on, so I thought the hand sander would be the best way. Now I give everything a quick wipe down with some of this orange flavored mineral spirit stuff. It really helps to remove the dust and also highlights any glue squeeze out or issues I've missed. I found some on the inside of some of the corners, so just quickly clean them up with a chisel here. With it fully dry now, I mix up the last of my Rubio Monocoat Pure and start applying it to the outside. I was careful not to get too much on the inside. We're going to be gluing down the white oak in a minute here. This just needs to be finished on the outside visible edges. There's nothing like applying finish to see your project come alive. Now it was time to turn my attention to the acrylic I'm using as the glass for this project. I ordered this from Amazon, and as you can see in this video, it came with a broken corner. It's annoying, but I didn't want to return it and deal with the hassle. The glass didn't look scratched, so yeah, I just got onto it and cut it down on the table saw to the dimensions I need. Being pretty careful here to make sure I don't scratch it, and then just drop it in to see if it fits. And look at that, like a glove. Cutting the mat was a bit of a challenge. I don't have a mat cutting board or a mat cutter, but I did it with a straight edge and a piece of scrap plywood underneath, and it seemed to work pretty good. The real challenge I have with this is keeping everything clean in my shop. You know, it's a wood shop. It's not always the cleanest place, despite my best efforts to keep it tidy. But short of one small spot, I was able to keep the mat nice and clean and get it ready for the install. And there you go. Just carefully cut out the insides and the mat is ready. And look at that, another perfect fit. Switching gears a bit, it's time to rip down these white oak strips to 3 inches. That's what the client requested for the inside space inside the box. So I just quickly rip them down here and get ready for finishing. The trick with fitting these in is to start with one side, measure and put it in, and then kind of work your way around the circle. This allows you to tighten up the gaps as you go and kind of cover them up so that you only have to really cut one piece exactly perfect. It's a pretty cool trick that I learned from Michael Alm on his YouTube channel on how to make these shadow boxes. And with those fitting perfectly, it was time to apply the finish. I just applied the finish to one side here so that the glue could stick on the other side and hold it securely to the walnut. I used some Rubio Monocoat cotton white here just to whiten up and brighten up the inside a bit. Pretty easy, wipe on, wait a few minutes, wipe off. Now it was time for a pretty thorough cleaning because once this is glued in, it's not going anywhere. I really struggled with whether or not I should glue in the mat and the frame, and I ended up doing it, and it was mostly okay. I'm not sure if there's a better way, but on to peeling off the protective layer on the acrylic and dropping it into place. It's kind of satisfying pulling off this sticky protective material. With that dropped in place, I peeled it off on the inside, and then I had bought this acrylic cleaner, another tip from Michael Alm. You don't want to use Windex or glass cleaner on acrylic, it can scratch it. This plastic cleaner cleans it, is anti-static, which is super helpful because this stuff craves dust after you pull off the protective backing. So yeah, just give it a quick clean with this spray on acrylic cleaner. I put a link to the acrylic I bought and the cleaner I bought in the description if you're curious, just whatever I found on Amazon. It's nothing super special. Now it was time to glue in these white oak veneer strip thingies. I just applied a thin layer of glue with a paintbrush here. I wanted to make sure there was absolutely no squeeze out, so I was very careful to not apply any close to the edges. With that done, I just one by one set them in place and put a couple clamps in to hold them, and that was that. With the box done, it was time to move on to the back panel. I debated using plywood for this, but I thought it would look better and match more closely if I just ripped down some 1/4 inch strips of white oak from this piece I had. So I did that over on the bandsaw. as you can see here, I'm ripping down the strips into 1/4 inch pieces. Then it was back to the planer, get them down to that, 1/4 inch, and that was that. Gluing these together was straightforward. I just taped the joints, pull it together using the flexibility or stretchiness of this tape. It held well enough. So I taped one side, flipped it over, squeezed in a little bit of glue, and applied a few more pieces of tape. Nothing super special here, but a great way to clamp thin pieces of wood. After allowing the glue to dry for a few hours, I pulled off the tape and quickly sanded everything down to remove any of the glue spots and get it ready for finish. I sanded this with 80 grit, then 120, then 150, so nothing super special here, just getting it ready for the Rubio. I cut it down on the table saw to its final dimensions. I tried to keep the size of the panels on the outside fairly even, so I cut it twice on each side for the long way and then cut it down to width. I was going to use my table saw here, but I couldn't really think of a good way. It was too big to fit in my sled. So I just grabbed the track saw and cut the width down to these. It worked perfectly, no issues at all. Once again, with the Rubio cotton white, I applied it to both sides on this one. Rub it on, wait 5, 10, 15 minutes, rub it off. The really important thing, and they stress this on the can with Rubio, is to make sure you wipe everything off. So in that process, I just did it a few times with a couple different rags. As they got saturated, I'd grab a clean one. Nothing special, easy finish to work with. Takes a few days to fully cure, maybe a week to fully cure, or a few days to be able to kind of be careful with. But for a project like this, it's perfect. I picked up these little clips to attach the back panel to the frame here. I just cut some thin oak strips here to keep everything nice and tight and secure. And there you have it. Thanks for watching along. Let me know if there's any questions in the comments, or subscribe if you want to see what's coming next. Have a great day.